What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Home Build Workshop. This is part 2 of this little mini series of building the matching cigar box guitar and cigar box amp. Today, we need to build this amp. Stick around, check it out. Well, here we are, part number 2 of the cigar box guitar and cigar box guitar amp build. If you haven't seen the video for the cigar box guitar, there's a link in the description. Make sure you head on over there, check this out. Pause this video, go watch that one so you'll be up to speed, and then come back to this one. Don't miss it. So here is the matching cigar box to that guitar. This is what we're going to turn into an amp. I have got a really cool kit that I am excited to try out. I ordered up this tiny little kit from a company called Jam Jar. You guys may have heard of them. This is not at all sponsored by them, but I ordered one of these and a finished unit just for me to try out. These things are pretty cool and I cannot wait to get this thing powered up. So leading up to this project, I've spent a lot of time, probably more than I really needed to, trying to figure out my best way to put the speaker in here and exactly how I want to do it. I brainstormed with several people in a few of my recent live streams that I do every week, just talking about different options and different ways to put the speaker in here. I think I've come to a conclusion and figured out the way that I want to do this. A big part of this project for me is this Java logo. I want to retain that, but I also want to be able to have the speaker right in the center of that logo. So I believe what I'm going to do is cut out a couple of small half moon shapes on either side of that. This will be kind of like the speaker grill across the front of the speaker. Just like I did on the cigar box guitar, I'm going to use some low tack tape on the top of the box. That way I have something I can make some pencil marks on. First, I'll locate the center of the Java label. Then using a compass, I'll draw a circle the size of my speaker. So we're going to remove these half moon shapes right here. That will retain this Java label right in the center. To be 100% completely honest with you guys, this is the part that I've been dreading, and part of the reason it's taken me a while to get to starting this project. I just wanted to try to figure out what's going to be the easiest, the cleanest, and least likely to screw this up, but really, I haven't come up with a great solution. I tested on a different piece of wood using a coping saw to cut out a similar shape. It worked okay. Probably with a little bit more practice on my part, I could have got really good results. I think what I've decided to use is a Dremel with one of those little spiral cutting bits. I've got this little kind of a router base attachment for it. I think this is going to give me the cleanest results as long as I go slow, take my time, leave the line, and we'll sand the line later. Sometimes you just got to go for it. After securing the box to the vise, it's time to start making some holes. I'll start by drilling a couple of pilot holes so that I have somewhere to start my cuts. And now we can crank up the Dremel and start removing this material. I'm gonna go very slow, take my time, be very careful with my cuts. While I'm cutting, I'm being very careful to make sure I leave all of the pencil line. I'm okay with it being a little bit undersized at this point. I'd rather that than risk cutting too far. We're halfway there, one side left. Whew. Well, now that stressful part's out of the way, now all I have is a whole lot of filing. I'm filing everything down right to the pencil line since I went conservative on my cuts. Since this wood's really not that thick, it didn't take all that long. Now that I have that cut, this label seems like it wants to lift just a little bit. I don't know if maybe it pulled it loose a little bit while I was filing. I need to secure that so that it doesn't peel off of there. I don't think it will, really, but I don't want it to be flopping around. I want it to be good and solid. I'm gonna use a little bit of CA glue, just dab it on there with a toothpick. I think that'll hold it down just fine. This particular CA glue I really like. It's made by Starbond. They were kind enough to send me some samples. This is one of them. I really like their stuff. Mainly, the biggest reason, they come with new tips. So when your tip gets glued up and clogged up, because we all know that's gonna happen. you can replace it. I think that's really cool and a really good idea. If you guys are interested, link in the video description. Java. I'm having fun with that. That's much better. So now I need to work on getting the speaker mounted. Now it has mounting holes, I could just run some screws in there, but the issue that I'm going to run into is that the lid is really only about 1/4 of an inch thick, and the shortest screws that I have are 1/2 inch. So if I run screws through there, it's going to poke through the front of the lid, and I want to try to keep that lid just as free from holes and clean and clear as I can. So what I need to do is make a couple of spacers that's going to space this out just a little bit, give me a little bit more meat to drive the screws into. I've got this piece of 1/8 inch plywood. I think if I cut a couple spacers out of that, it's going to work awesome. By sticking the two pieces together with double-sided tape, I can mark and cut out the circle for the speaker at the exact same time in the exact same spot. After drilling a quick starter hole, it's time to fire up the scroll saw and cut this circle out. And I'll clean up those edges on the oscillating spindle sander. Perfect. Now I just need to mark the locations of the screw holes just by using the speaker as the template. And then I can drill out those holes so we can attach it. So I've got my two pieces of what will form my speaker sandwich ready to go. One is going to go on the back of the speaker. Then I've got this grill piece here. This piece will go on top. Then we can run some screws through the back, through the speaker, and into the lid, and then we'll only have just enough material in the lid to secure this thing in place. Can you tell I'm pondering? I don't think my plan's gonna work like I want it. That lid's just too thin. I think it would hold the speaker, but I don't know if I want to trust it. I believe I'm going to have to change my plan again, just like we did with the guitar. Kind of changed where I was going right in the middle of the project, but it was for the better and a design improvement where I had to add the thickness to the neck. I think I need to change my plan here. I was trying originally to keep the front of this box as basically as it is. I wanted to screw this in from the back and screw it into the lid. There's just not enough meat. I really don't think there is. 1/4 of an inch. That's going to be less than 1/4 of an inch of screw engagement. Yes, it's not a heavy speaker, and it probably would be okay, but I don't want to go with probably. Design improvement. I'm going to use these screws with these finishing washers down through the top of the box to secure the speaker. These little washers are going to give it more of a finished look and make it look a little better than just a couple screws stuck into the top. One thing I need to do though, since this is a bit of a sandwich, there's a little bit of unevenness where this grate goes, and we need to fill that in, and for that we're going to use a piece of leather. I've cut this leather to the same size as the plywood, and we're going to attach it with contact cement. After we apply the contact cement, we need to wait about 5 minutes for the glue to dry to the touch. It's going to be just a teeny bit tacky, and that's perfect. Then we can just stick our two pieces together. Oh yeah, that's like the perfect thickness. It's just flush. So now that makes up my little speaker sandwich. I think we can now move ahead and get this mounted to the box. I'm going to use some more double-sided tape to attach this piece to the lid of the box. I'm going to use that as my drilling template to drill the mounting holes for the speaker. Okay, that looks cool. So this feels really secure right now, but these screws are just a little bit long. This is still only 1/8" plywood right here, so instead of using a shorter screw, I'm just going to cut a couple of little tabs that we can glue on here, basically to build out the thickness of the wood right here where those screws go in. I want to make sure I have complete thread engagement into wood. There's no sharp things to get poked on, and also to hold a little bit better.
This would be an excellent camera shot if only my hands were out of the way. Oh well, you get the idea. After drilling a couple of screw holes, I'll just glue these pieces in place using the screw as the clamp.
Well, now the glue's dry on those tabs and I've removed the speaker, set it aside so that it doesn't get damaged, and now I need to work on installing the input and output jacks. Yes, this does have an output jack. It's one of the cool things. Not only can you play this amp through the speaker, but you're able to plug it in and chain it to another cabinet, which is really cool.
I'm going to do this exactly like I did for the output jack on the Cigar Box guitar. Because of the thickness of the sides, the jack doesn't go all the way through, so I need to drill a larger recess, which will allow me to countersink the jack into the side. That block of wood that I have clamped in there is to help prevent the back side of the hole from tearing out.
So now with those jacks mounted, we need to secure a 9-volt battery in there. This little thing is run only by a 9-volt battery. I have one of these little 9-volt battery clips. I want it to be easily accessible, but not in the way of the speaker. So to hold the battery clip, I've cut a strip of wood, which is going to kind of be dual purpose. It's going to mount the battery clip, but it's also going to get glued into the box, and it's going to provide it some stiffness and rigidity, just to make sure that it's nice and solid.
After drilling a couple of little mounting holes for the battery clip, I'll just screw it in place with a tiny little screw.
All right, that ought to hold. So while that glue is drying, there's an issue with the finish that I want to address. Where I cut out for the speaker, this wood is really a light color and it sticks out like a sore thumb to me, so I want to kind of blend that in a little better.
I started off with some brown dye that was very similar to the color of the outside of the cigar box. I thought that would blend in really well, but once I got it applied, it still stuck out quite a bit to me. So I ended up going back over that portion with some black acrylic paint. The black really helped that whole entire edge just disappear. It looks so much better this way. And once again, it's heat gun sticker removal time. The heat gun really loosens up the adhesive, and the sticker comes right off.
So now I'm about ready to assemble this thing, but there's one important piece missing. We need to take care of that first. Since this is an amp, we gotta have a way to carry this thing around. We need some sort of a handle, and I think that sounds like a great little quick leather project.
I'll start by cutting down a few strips of leather that are wide enough to make the handle. Then we'll add some contact cement and glue those two pieces together. I used a J-roller just to make sure the two pieces are stuck together really good. I used a cereal box to create a cardboard template, which now I can scribe onto the leather. And now using a straight edge and a sharp utility knife, I'll cut out the shape of this handle. Since this is a double thickness of leather, it's a little bit tricky to get nice, super clean cuts, and that's where the belt grinder, or really any belt sander, comes in handy. You can fine tune the shape here.
Now using a pair of dividers, I'm just going to scribe an 1/8" stitch line around the outside edge of the handle.
And now I'll just punch all the stitch holes all the way around the edge. I only wish it went that fast.
Cool.
After a quick bevel on the edge, I'm going to apply some dye to the leather just to darken it up. I really like this dark brown color. And now we're ready to stitch.
Aha!
Now using a small tack hammer, I'm going to tap down my stitch line. This smooths it out and makes it look nice and even.
Now using this funky little tool called the slicker, we're going to just smooth up the edges, make them nice and smooth. Take a little water, wet the edge. That makes the leather nice and pliable. Then we just slick them up. This kind of gives the leather a little bit more finished look. It's not completely necessary, but it does smooth it out and kind of really makes it look nice. Now we just need to head over to the drill press and drill a couple of holes so we can mount this to the amp.
And finally, the last thing that I'm going to do to this handle is just apply a coat of neat's foot oil. This helps moisturize and condition the leather. Once the neat's foot oil soaks in, we're ready to install the handle.
I just got really scared. I thought I marked it out on the bottom side for some reason. I didn't, but for some reason I thought I did. Yeesh.
To attach the handle, I'm going to use the exact same kind of screws and finishing washers that I'm using to attach the speaker. That way we won't have a bunch of mismatched fasteners.
Let's finish this assembly.
After securing the speaker with the finishing washers and screws, I need to make a couple solder connections to connect the speaker. Now this amp kit came with speaker wires, but I had to remove those and use a little bit longer wires to fit this application.
And there is one final detail that we cannot forget. Ooh. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Well, at least I have. Hopefully you have too. Let's fire this up. Volume turned down, you get a lot of nice clean sounds. Teeny little bit of breakup. Turn the volume up a little bit more. This is when it really starts to break up a little more. With it all the way up, it's almost like kind of a higher gain overdrive. It's surprisingly loud. It's got kind of a warm overdrive. harder you dig in, the more it breaks up. It's actually quite responsive for being no tubes or anything. If you pick nice and light, the notes are still pretty clear even with it cranked all the way up, but if you really dig in, it really gets nice and gritty. It's really neat. That's awesome. All from a 9-volt battery in a cigar box. This is really neat because it has a wide range of sounds from really bright, almost too bright, at least for my ear. But if you roll the tone back, which I don't typically do, but I can see myself using that on something like this, to all the way down. Almost sounds like kind of a wah pedal in just the half on position. That's really cool. And another cool thing about this thing is you can daisy chain from this output jack to another cabinet. If you had like a small 112 or up to a 412 cabinet, they claim that this will run a 412, and I have verified that with my 412. I plugged this in and just to make sure it does run it, and it does, and it sounds really cool. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. This thing came out awesome. I'm loving this as a set. What a cool combination and matching. How cool is that? Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you check out part 1 if you haven't seen it yet, where I build the guitar. Link in the video description. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. One thing you gotta remember, you gotta unplug this. That's what turns off the battery. Otherwise, you run your battery dead. I've set the activator over there. I can't reach it because I'm holding it here. And this arm doesn't go that way.
Sometimes the thinking gets serious.
We got this, we got this. Was that like a dying squirrel? You gotta plug it in, you dummy. Really? Don't forget your safety gear. Hot rod out there. Probably a Honda. So now I'm just gonna throw that thing around. Clamp. How can there still be a fly in here? We had like 0 degrees for a day or two. Java.